The Pfyn culture is one of several archaeological cultures of the Neolithic period in Switzerland. It dates from c. 3900 BC to c. 3500 BC. Discovery. The oldest traces of a settlement are about 1.5 kilometers west of Pfyn in the former peat bog of Brighton-Loo, located in a depression carved by a lateral moraine of the Thur Glacier. It dates from the Neolithic era. The settlement site was discovered during peat cutting in the late 19th century, but subsequently forgotten. During the war years 1940–41, an attempt to drain the bog to increase arable production land led to its rediscovery. Drainage work on arable production was raised again. In the autumn of 1944, an area of approximately 1,000 square meters was excavated by interned Polish soldiers led by Charles Galatanusser. Due to the topographical conditions and an exploratory drilling project in 2002, it appears that about 60% of the settlement area has been excavated. During the 1944 excavations, 17 different houses were found. The houses are located along a north-south main street with the gables facing the street. The buildings are almost exclusively built with two naves and have lengths of 4 to 11 meters and widths from 3.5 to 5.5 meters. It is striking that several houses of vastly different sizes lay side by side, suggesting perhaps larger homes with smaller farm buildings. The house floors were all built with complex support structures and overlying split boards, which were usually covered with clay. Midden heaps in the soil and partial scorch marks on the support structures suggest that at least some buildings were lifted quite high off the ground. Galatanusser noted that there was the close relationship of the ceramics with the Michelsberg culture of southern Germany, and believed that the Pfyn finds were a Michelsberg settlement. Around 1960, research determined that the Pfyn ceramics were represented an autonomous culture that was related to the Michelsberg culture. Since that time, the Pfyn Brighton-Loo site has been regarded as the center of the Pfyn culture. Further explorations in 2002 and 2004 led to a somewhat more nuanced picture of the settlement. This enabled the site to be dated via dendrochronology. The timbers that were used were cut in 3706–3704 BC and confirm a single development phase. Another Neolithic settlement must have existed some 400 meters northwest of Brighton-Loo. However, the few ceramics discovered at that site are also part of the Pfyn culture. That settlement has never been systematically studied, and it is believed that the industrial peat extraction during the Second World War may have largely destroyed its economy. Some evidence of metalworking has been found in the region between Lake Constance and Lake Zurich from about the time period of the Pfyn culture. Unfortunately, most of the metal comes from isolated finds and so is poorly dated. However, a copper wire and dagger from the Pfyn era were found at Reut in Appenzell-Ausserrhoden, as well as crucibles and casting spills. Intensification of pig farming occurred during the Pfyn culture in the eastern part of the Alpine foreland. Keeping large numbers of pigs is typical of the Horgan and corded ware culture. This pig economy was exported westward by the Horgan culture. Grain production was also very important. At the Pfyn era sites near Zurich, durum wheat and barley were most commonly found. About half of the total calories consumed by the Pfyn era people came from grain. Pfyn culture sites have been discovered in several locations in eastern Switzerland. These include Brighton-Loo, about 1.5 kilometers from Pfyn in the canton of Thurgau along the Thur River. Feldmeilen, Vorderfeldenmeilen on the right bank of Lake Zurich. 4 layers of Pfyn culture artifacts are followed by 5 organ culture layers were found at Feldmeilen. In Meilen, 1 Pfyn layer followed by 3 organ layers were discovered.